O my Lord, make me brave, and make my task easy for me,
Have faith, step onto the cloud of Islam, and you will discover the light of Iman. Proclaim this message entrusted to you, and the cloud of Islam will carry you.
Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. When he made us the best of people for mankind, it was for mankind and not for the Arabs alone. 800 years they had a jolly good time, our ancestors in Spain. But they didn't propagate the faith. They didn't do the primary duty of the Muslim was to propagate the faith. So Allah's law comes into force, سَيَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ, and they will substitute in your place another people, and they will substitute it. There was not a single Muslim left in that country after 800 years to give the azan. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحج أشهر معلومات فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. My dear brothers and sisters, I have read to you a verse from the Holy Quran, from chapter 2, verse 185, in which Allah Bari Ta'ala tells us about Hajj, that for Hajj, the months are well known. You know the months of Hajj. And when Hajj, the season of Hajj comes along, when one undertakes Hajj, it is the duty of the Haji, the person who performs Hajj, that there is no obscenity, that he performs no obscenity, he doesn't do anything that is outward, untoward, and nor does he do anything wicked, nor does he do any wrangling during the period of Hajj. Now in the Hajj, there are certain signs of Allah Bari Ta'ala, certain duties that one has to perform, and among these duties of Hajj, one is Sa'i, that is running between Safa and Marwa. These were originally two hillocks, two small hills, and the history goes that Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, the holy prophet Abraham, the father of the Jews, the Christians and the Muslims, everybody reveres this messenger of God as Father Abraham, Father Abraham, Father Abraham. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, he had two wives, Sarah and Hajara, and through a conflict that existed between these two wives of his, Allah Bari Ta'ala commanded him to take Hajara with her infant child Ismail and take him to where Makkah is today and leave mother and child. Outwardly, it was one of the most cruel of deeds that any man can do to his wife and child, a young wife and an infant child. But at the behest of Allah, he was prepared to do anything what Allah commanded him. He was prepared to carry out the commandments of Allah. So he leaves mother and child, and as time wore on, they ran short of water, and Bibi Hajara, she began searching for water, looking in this direction, looking in that direction, running up on top of Safa, looking around to see for some oasis or see some habitation, nothing to be seen. She runs down the hillock and runs up onto the opposite hillock, Marwa, and she scans around for some sign of habitation, some oasis, some habitation, some people, and she finds nothing. And she runs up and down and down and up 7 times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took such a liking to this compassion, this love that she had for her infant child, that he made it fard upon the Haji, the man who goes on pilgrimage, that he must also go through the same process of up and down 7 times. Now Allah had a purpose in this, of making us to go through that, as a discipline, as a sign, as a monument of remembering Allah. Then he made Ibrahim, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, to build the Kaaba. Hazrat Ibrahim and his son, as a young man, when Ismail grew up, to say, of age of discretion, about 12 years of age, him, father and son, they began raising the walls of the Kaaba. A cubicle, a square building, plain and simple building, dedicated to the worship of the one true God. We say it was the first house built on God's good earth for the worship of the one true God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was made to shout, to give the call, for people to hearken to the call, to come along and do tawaf around this house of God, to show his love and dedication. And when the Muslim performs Hajj, he goes around the Kaaba 7 times, the tawaf 7 times, and as he walks around the Kaaba, he is made to proclaim the talbiyah, the reminder, labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, means here I am, O Lord, here I am, O Allah, here I am, labbaik, here I am, la sharika laka labbaik, you have no associates, here I am. Innal hamda, says to you is due all praise, wan ni'mata, and all beneficence, all bounties proceed from thee. Laka wal mulk, and yours is the dominion, yours is the power, yours is the rule. La sharika lak, and you have no associates. Now this is the slogan, 1400 years old. And this year, some 3 million Hajis, they went through that ritual of going around the Kaaba 7 times, making the tawaf, and repeating this formula. Labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, labbaik, la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulk, la sharika lak. Now, I was very fortunate this year in performing this ritual. And while going through, it struck me that this slogan, it is a slogan, talbiyah, a reminder, a slogan, that we Muslims are made to repeat year in and year out, no change, given by our Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no change. There must be a purpose in this slogan. And I found that slogans are made to be repeated and implemented. The United Nations, they have the certain agencies. And in certain of these agencies, they work for certain projects. And they invent slogans. Like, for example, they had water year. Water year. Year of the water, for saving, conserving water. And in that water year, the slogan went out, use it, don't abuse it. Water, use it, don't abuse it. Which is really our own slogan, 1400 years old also. But now, the slogan part, that people from all over the world are invited, and they go through this process of having themselves programmed. They imbibe themselves with these slogans, and they go to their own respective countries, and they propagate the slogan and the idea. Or this is the age of the child. This is the age of the child. This is an age for old aged people. So it says, your mother, an old age home is not her destination. You must look after your parents, and on and on. These are really, to me, Islamic slogans, which the United Nations in some form or another, under novel names, they try to implement it. And these slogans are carried out in all parts of the world, in different countries. But this slogan that we Muslims are repeating, year in and year out, the most unfortunate part is this, that we have done nothing. We are doing nothing to take them back home, into our own respective countries. We leave the slogan behind. No doubt we take the dates from Makkah and Medina, and we buy all the trinkets from Makkah and Medina. Things are very cheap. But the main purpose of Hajj, which is to see that this slogan is implemented, to see that shirk is obliterated from the face of the earth, this, unfortunately, the Muslims have forgotten this lesson to imbibe. وآخر الدعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. صدق الله المولى العظيم. My dear brethren, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the English language, there is a riddle, so lugh uhjiya, a riddle which says, what is stranger than sending coal to Newcastle? Newcastle is a city in England where coal is mined. And it would be a strange thing for people to export coal to Newcastle. But the question is, the riddle is, what is stranger than that? And a modern answer to that riddle is sending oil to Arabia, meaning to the Arab countries. It's stranger than sending coal to Newcastle. Now, I, as a Muslim from the southmost tip of Africa, nearest to the South Pole, I am coming here to Arab lands, to Muslims who were originally where Islam started from, and I am coming to tell them something about Ramadan. And in telling them so, I have quoted a verse from the Holy Quran, from Surah Al-Baqarah, that is chapter 2, verse 185. For the non-Muslims watching this program, how can they have access to such a verse? The first method is that you ask any Muslim, and if he tells you about a surah, surah meaning chapter, and he says Baqarah, in this volume, which was presented to me by the Presidency of Islamic Courts and Affairs in your city of Doha, Qatar, in this volume of a translation of the Holy Quran, if you open the index, right at the back end of this volume is an index. Under B, you will find Baqarah, and if you look up, Baqarah means chapter 2. So you open chapter 2, you get to verse 185, and you will get this verse about Ramadan, the month of fasting. It says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. هدى للناس. In it is guidance for mankind, not only for the Arabs, not only for the Indonesians, not only for the Pakistanis, but for the whole of mankind. هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. And it is a fuller explanation of the revelation of God, and a guidance, and as a discrimination, as a standard of judging right from wrong. This is the Quran, the final revelation of God Almighty to mankind. So Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. And two verses before this one, in verse 183, we are told, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, say, O you who believe, O men of faith, kutiba alaykum as-siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum. Says fasting has been ordained for you, has been prescribed for you, as it had been prescribed for those before you. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that ye may learn self-restraint, that ye may learn discipline. The purpose of fasting, we find here, told to us by God Almighty, is not just to starve ourselves, but that we may learn self-discipline. And there is nothing new in this. It is not entirely something novel, that God Almighty had ordained this system of fasting for the previous religious systems. In Judaism, the religion as taught by Moses, fasting was prescribed. In the religion as preached by Jesus Christ, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, fasting was prescribed. And we read in the Christian scriptures, in what is called the New Testament in English, that Jesus Christ, he told his disciples that when you fast, do not fast as the hypocrites do. They do not wash their faces and they do not brush their hair. But when you fast, you must wash your face and brush your hair of a happy countenance, that nobody knows that you are fasting, because you're fasting for the love of God. So in Islam, this is one of the major principles, pillars of Islam. And the Muslim, he looks forward to this holy month of Ramadan. And the Ramadan of the Muslim, the holy month of fasting, is counted according to a lunar calendar. We in the West, people in the West, we have a Gregorian solar calendar based on the movement of the sun, 365 and a quarter day a year, and another 365 and a quarter, and another 365 and a quarter, and at the fourth turn of the earth around the sun, they add a day, which means they have a lunar, they have add what is called, in February, they add an extra day. Now, in Islam, Allah Bari Ta'ala, God in His mercy, what He has done is that by giving us a lunar calendar for working out our days and our counting for our religious festivals, it has made it possible for mankind to have a fair chance of experiencing all the seasons of the year. For example, that if it was a solar calendar, then in the West, for example in England, which is a Western country, north of the equator, in that if Ramadan was around Christmas time, in December, like they say the birth of Jesus Christ was in December, they have a white Christmas, means always it is midwinter. In our case, if Ramadan was to come, instead of December, we say Ramadan, then every year, year in and year out, it would have been a midwinter for fasting, and people in the south of the equator, it would have been in midsummer, like in my country, South Africa, we would be having midsummer throughout our experience, and the Western man would be having midwinter throughout his experience, and fasting in winter and fasting in summer are not equal. There is a vast difference between these two. Fasting in summer is no doubt more strenuous, it is more tiring, more trying than fasting in winter. Then in winter, in the West, they have very, very long days and very, very short nights. Then we have very short days in winter and very, very long nights. So in other words, it would be very unfair, very unjust to work on a system of that nature. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, in His wisdom, in His mercy, He has given us this lunar calendar for working out this holy month of Ramadan. And we Muslims, we fast from before sunrise to sunset. Before dawn, we can have a little breakfast, and the whole day, from sunrise up to sunset, not even a sip of water, no smoking, no sniffing, and other normal relationship which might exist between, let's say, the husband and the wife. Even those relationships of satisfying your sexual needs are forbidden. And it is a great discipline. And the only witness to this system of fasting is God Almighty Himself. And we are told in the books of Hadith that Allah Bari Ta'ala, He Himself will reward the faithful, the one who has fasted from his own presence. Because the Muslim has done this for the love of God only. And nobody is a witness to this, because in the privacy of one's own home, from the cool refrigerator, he can take out water and he can drink. Who is a witness to that? Nobody except Allah. So with the fear of Allah, the love of Allah, this makes the Muslim to obey this pillar of Islam. Wa akhir dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.